Hello everyone, Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching. I have another Monday quarterback video for you. I'm going to play this video and talk about things that are going on to better explain what's going on and talk about things that I think that are being done right and or done wrong. Here we go.
The information, audio, and visuals you are about to see are intended to provide details of an officer-involved shooting which occurred on June 13, 2022 at approximately 4:25 a.m. in the 6800 block of Lowry Street. Actions of an attorney for camera, the entire and administration policy since the adoption of shooting. This video may contain discretion is advised. On June 13th at 3:45 a.m., the Bakersfield Police Department received a report that an adult male suspect had brandished a handgun at a convenience store clerk in the 2300 block of Panama Lane. The suspect then fled the business in a silver Mazda van with purple rims. A two-officer patrol unit was dispatched to the business and located a silver Mazda van in the area with purple rims.
So a person's vehicle or its condition thereof can really tell you a lot about a person. So this dude driving around in a van with purple rims, and he wants to do stupid shit like point guns at store clerks. There are not that many vans out there with purple rims. There's not that many cars that have purple rims. So this guy is extremely fucking stupid, doing stupid shit in a very easily identifiable vehicle that sticks out like a sore thumb. Now the vehicle itself, purple rims. Like why the hell would you want purple rims on your car, let alone a van? Like who had the bright idea? I'm gonna get this van and I'm gonna put purple rims on it. Maybe it's because I'm not that big of a car person. I just don't see the allure of doing stuff like that. But purple rims on a van screams fucking idiot to me. Anyway, moving on.
A man standing next to the vehicle matched the description of the suspect who was armed with a handgun. The following body camera footage is from the only officer who discharged his duty weapon and begins as the officers locate the suspect vehicle.
No, I don't see
No purple rims or nothing?
No, that's purple rims.
That's purple rims?
Yeah.
So you can hear in their voice, like, oh, purple rims. Like, here's the dude. So they're in this parking lot. For whatever reason, this dude went to the parking lot. Maybe he thought it would be a good place to go hide. Or it was in the parking lot of this convenience store and he just wasn't smart enough to leave from it. I don't know. I can't remember if they described it or not. But they're in the parking lot and they park far enough away from the vehicle where there's some distance there. They could have gotten closer, but they obviously would have increased their risk of that armed subject being able to put more accurately placed shots on them as the closer they get. So I think that they believed that stopping at this distance was to their advantage, giving them a little bit extra protection, so to speak. But as they leave their vehicle, it is wide open space. The only place, if they get up to here and gunfight happens, the only place that they have to go to are these trees, and there's not that much around them. So, you could argue that, hey, they could have got that vehicle a little bit closer. The passenger could have got out and provided lethal cover as they rolled forward. That way, if something happened, that passenger who's already out of the vehicle can start laying down return fire, and then the driver can park, dismount, and go take cover to the rear of the vehicle or behind one of those trees. That's an option. Is it the option? No, but it is an option. So where they're at right now, this driver of the police car, if he gets midway or further than midway between these vehicles and fight happens, he don't have much to go as far as cover. He's going to be standing there with his dick in the wind, so to speak, and he's going to have to move off the X and go to one of these trees over here.
Hey, man,
Hey, bro! Hey!
Hey, let me see
Let me see your fucking hands! Let me see your fucking hands!
hand.
Now, the passenger officer, he's got a big-ass tree to go get in behind and take cover. But it's only right there. If he gets up to here, well, then there's really no place for him to go other than maybe behind this tree. But if this officer goes over here, now it's a crossfire kind of thing. So urban environments can really suck when it comes to trying to find cover. Sometimes it's just not really there. And even in rural environments too, like if you're out in the middle of a field somewhere, like there's not much cover in an empty field. Like you ain't got no rocks out there or tractors or nothing. Like you're wide out in the open. Like there ain't shit to hide behind. So sometimes the environments that you're in just suck. Like they're not great. But you gotta roll with it. And for something like this, if they were to get to this halfway mark or further to this halfway mark, and boom, gunfight happens. What's their course of action going to be? This is something that they should obviously have a conversation about. This is something they should have been trained for or practice on, and it's called bounding. So contact happens, boom, they immediately react to contact, and one can communicate to the other very loudly. Say moving, and let's say the passenger vehicle, or the passenger officer. Let's say they get up there, they initiate contact, and the passenger officer is like, moving. The driver officer could be like, move, while he's laying down fire. Passenger officer runs back to a distance, turns, and as he's running, he does a reload, turns, takes a position, starts firing. And he can shout, move! And then the driver officer can say, moving. And he run back to another spot a little bit further past him. While he's doing a mag change in the process, seat, turn seat, start returning fire. They communicate, move, moving. Passenger officer runs, gets in behind the police vehicle, and then starts firing at bad guy, and then communicate. Driver ends up behind the police car. So that's a bounding drill where one person is firing or providing lethal cover while the other person moves. They get to a spot, they can turn, set, provide that same cover or that same return fire if it's going to be that kind of gunfight, which is rare. And then the other person can move to a point where they're both now behind good cover. So that's something that can be taught in some places, but it's not something that is really in depth gone over in a lot of police academies out there. And if it is, it's touched on very briefly, and some agencies just don't ever practice it on their own or anything like that. But it is a viable tactic to be able to utilize when you have no cover around you. You need to get back to cover or some good formidable form of cover. The other option that I talked about, like I said, the passenger officer could have gotten out and walked on foot while the driver of the police vehicle moved a little bit forward, and that would allow them to get closer to this guy, box the vehicle in, what have you. I don't think that would be the greatest option to do, but that's certainly an option that is available if people were wanting to do it. But it's certainly, if you're going to do the boxing in thing, then if it's a two-man car, then you should realistically have that person get out of the vehicle and move away from the vehicle. That way, if that bad guy wants to start shooting, Well, he's going to have to choose one person to shoot at. And if he chooses the person in the vehicle, well, the person who has gone far off to the side can return fire without being stricken with, the type of fear that you'd be stricken with when you're taking fire yourself. You're not going to be as frantic. You're going to be a little bit more calmer, so to speak, in your reaction to contact and be able to deliver some more accurate rounds on target. Whereas if you're both in the vehicle and you're both fucking taking rounds, you're going to have a more of a frantic kind of response to that, and your rounds that you send out may not be as accurate under those kind of circumstances. One thing that I usually complain about in these videos is officers not getting out with rifles. That is not the case here. This officer does have a rifle in hand, and I love it. So many times I will complain in these videos about officers responding to calls where there is the heightened increased chance of gunplay being involved or a gunfight occurring. So they know they're going to a call where a dude's got a gun, he's brandished a gun. The right thing to do is get a rifle out and put that into play. If you know you're going to a gunfight, bring a rifle and bring all your friends with rifles. Now, two-man cars are not a normal thing in most places here in the U.S. There are some places, like larger cities, where it is more common to see a two-man car, but in the vast majority of the U.S., it's a one-man car, and that's just due to staffing numbers and budgets and stuff. They just don't have enough people. So in most places, it's one officer to a car, so obviously it's going to be one rifle in that car. In these places where there are normally two people in a vehicle, realistically, there needs to be two rifles or two shotguns in that vehicle. That way, both can have good weapons in a gunfight. This could be a scenario where this is an FTO kind of thing going on, like one officer is the rookie and the other one's the more seasoned officer, and the seasoned officer is riding around with the rookie, showing him the ropes, like, hey, this is how we do things in our department. This is what you learn in the academy, but this is what we do here. That kind of shit. And sometimes, people don't think far enough ahead, and they just leave it be that there's just going to be one rifle in that car. What should happen in those instances is a second rifle should be taken, out of the other car that, is being left behind, or taken from the arms room, however that's set up, and goes out with them. That way, if both need to have a rifle, both can have a rifle. Otherwise, if you don't do that, only one person is going to have a long gun in this gunfight, and that kind of sucks. Like I said, if you know you're going to a gunfight, not only do you bring a rifle, but you bring your friends with rifles. So, I don't know anything about Bakersfield police. I don't know how they're set up. I don't even know if this is an FDO thing. This could just be a normal two-man car. There could be a second rifle, and the driver's just not gotten it out. I don't know. I have no idea. But I do want to point out that I like the fact that this passenger officer has got this rifle out and has put it into play. Rifles are a lot better than pistols in terms of accuracy and incapacitation power. There are a lot of people in this world who've been shot with pistol and they're still walking. There are not that many people who've been shot with rifle and are still walking. It takes, generally speaking, it takes less rounds from a rifle to incapacitate a person than it does pistol rounds. You could have 10 rounds fired out of a pistol and a person can still be coming, whereas on a rifle, you could maybe fire 3 rounds and that person is not going to be coming at you anymore. It's going to incapacitate them a lot quicker. So you can be more accurate with a rifle at longer distances, and its incapacitating power is greater. Rifles dominate. They really do. Rifles are fight stoppers, and so are shotguns. So always get a rifle out when going to a call that involves the potential of gunplay. Or even if it's not a call with a person with a gun, it's a call with a person that has a fucking machete or a sword or a knife or damn sledgehammer, something, some deadly weapon or deadly instrument. You're going to a call where they got a weapon and they're acting fucking crazy. Bring something that you know for sure has a really good chance of incapacitating them really fucking fast. You don't want to be in that position where dude's coming at you with a machete and you've done a mag dump from your pistol and they're still coming. You don't want that.
Let me see your hands, bro.
Let me see your hands.
Let me see your hands, man. Get out the fucking car. Don't fucking go in the fucking car. Let's run, let's go. Alright, let's do this, let's do it.
I'll show you tonight.
One dollar. You give us the agenda so you're for our current.
10-4, code 33 on channel 1, code 33 on channel 1.
So what does this mean? Of course, each area has a different way of saying it. Obviously, their way of saying this is code 33, which means to everyone else, if you're not involved in this, shut the hell up. Agencies out there with their radio systems have more than one channel. Now, there may be that one agency out there that's so small and so poor they only have one channel to operate off of. But for majority of everyone else, they've at least got two channels to be able to operate off of. Some departments have like 10 fucking channels or more that they can operate off of. So, with that being said, channel 1 in most places is where all the action takes place, so to speak. That's where the dispatch sends out calls. Dispatch to any available unit, robbery in progress at blah blah blah, or dispatch to unit blah blah blah. Missing juvenile at blah blah blah. That's where dispatch puts out all the calls at, is on channel 1. If an officer's driving around and they see a car that's acting stupid on the road, they want to pull them over, they'll use channel 1 to, unit to such and such to dispatch traffic stop on blah 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 at blah blah blah. That's what channel 1 is. It's just the operations channel that everything operates off of. Now, that's how it is in most places. Now, there may be some variations of it in other places. Like you may have an agency that has a dispatch channel, and then everyone else, if they're not being dispatched, they're on a different channel or whatever. But for simplicity's sake, most places operate off this idea that channel 1 is the main channel. It's the party line, so to speak. And if you've got something going on somewhere else, you can operate off of channel 2. That way, you're not tying up a whole lot of stuff on channel 1. Or an agency can have a designated talk around channel, like a channel 3. So it might not be uncommon to hear an officer call out to another officer, unit 1, unit 2, go to 3. And then they'll flip their radios over to channel 3, and they'll have a longer radio transmission type of conversation than they would on channel 1. Typically, when you are talking on the radio and you're on like a channel 1, you try not to have like very long transmissions. Like you're not trying to read a fucking book. Unfortunately, there are people who try to read a fucking book when they're talking on channel 1. But typically, you try to keep those transmissions very short, very to the point. The idea behind that is there's other people out there on channel 1, and if they get in trouble, they need to be able to talk on that channel. And they can't talk if you're sitting there describing to dispatch that the car is blue, its tires are partially deflated, there's about 22 bugs on the windshield, the driver looks like, he's just smoking a cigar, and just going on and on and on and on and on this fucking radio like you're a talk show host, and no one else can talk because you're eating up the air. So if you're on channel 1, it's very short communication. That's also why codes were invented and are used in most places. 10 codes. You can use 10 codes to say something by using less words and less airtime. It's talking code. So you can say a code, and you say that one code, like code 33 or 10-4. 10-4. That's a whole lot easier than saying, I am okay. Or I'm okay. Or I'm doing good. Whatever. You get the idea that codes make some things a little bit shorter. So that's how you talk on channel 1. So some agencies may have, that third channel they call talk around channel, and they can have a longer conversation. They can give that longer disposition on whatever's going on, what have you. So when they call for code 33 on channel 1, basically what that means is, all right, this officer's involved in a pursuit right now. Everybody else needs to shut the hell up. If you're conducting a traffic stop over on the east side of town, do not use this channel. Go to the backup channel. Go to channel 2. Then you can talk to dispatch on channel 2. Tell them you want to pull this car over for something fucking stupid during the middle of a pursuit, which you shouldn't be doing. And they can handle that bullshit on that channel, and you get to have priority on channel 1. You don't have to listen to a bunch of bullshit going on. Or if someone wants to pull into a fucking motel parking lot and start running tags on the radio during the middle of a pursuit, they can do that shit on channel 2, so that people who are stuck on channel 1 during this very stressful, dynamic situation aren't listening to all that bullshit. And there's going to have to be people who cannot get involved in this. Like, you cannot have the entire freaking department get involved in this pursuit. Like, there are going to have to be some people who stay behind and go answer normal calls. So whenever, you hear the hold traffic or code 33 or whatever the hell it is, people know that if they're not going to be involved in this situation, they turn their radio to that backup channel, to channel 2. And they can resume normal police operations on that channel while everyone else is operating on channel 1 doing the cool guy shit. So, kind of a brief explanation. Not really a brief, but that's an explanation of what's going on there.
Eastbound on Panorama, approaching Southage, Hobby, California, 7.
Copy, eastbound Tanner.
Hobby, California, 5, Edward Wall, X-ray 192, on the Mazda there. We're going to be through the red light at corrections. It was green light.
On the right, through the park. Corrections through the green at Parsons.
We're still eastbound on Panorama, approaching Fitzway. Speeds are at 40 miles an hour. No traffic, no pedestrians.
So far. Forward 24 copy, just further on Panama. Affirmative on Panama. Panama. Forward 24 copy, just further on Panama. Affirmative on Panama.
So I can't really make out what they were saying back there. It almost sounded like they was mocking the dude on the radio.
We're going to be making a southbound turn onto, correction, we're going to be continuing eastbound through the green light monitor. Speeds are at 25.
So you notice the passenger over here is operating the radio. So ideally, if you're in a two-man car, that's what needs to be going on. That way the driver can solely focus on operating that vehicle efficiently and effectively. It's a little bit more difficult to operate the vehicle when you're having to hold the microphone and talk on it at the same time, especially at high speeds. So typically, if it's a two-man car, that person in the passenger seat will take over that. Or if it's one-man vehicles and there's multiple vehicles involved, the officer who's at the very tip of the spear of that pursuit, the first car right behind the bad guy, they stay off the radio, and an officer, one car or two cars behind them, will take over radio communications because they're a little bit further behind, and they don't have to. They still have to be focused on what's going on, but that officer at the very front, very tip of the spear, needs to be really, really focused on the driving and everything. So typically that one officer who's one or two cars behind will take over the radio and start calling out locations on the pursuits and everything, because they can take that time to take their eyes off what's in front of them, look for those street signs and see exactly where they're at, whereas that person to the very front, they need to be completely focused on what's going on, because that dude who's running from them could instantly start fighting and point gun out window, and they need to take evasive actions or whatever, and they don't need to be taking their eyes off looking at road signs and seeing what's going on. Now, sometimes, the person, one-man car, has to do all that by themselves because they are by themselves. There's no one behind them. So it all kind of varies on what's going on, but if there's more people involved, then it's best that the driver at the front of the procession, so to speak, can focus on operating that vehicle. Now, with that being said, I've mentioned this before in other videos. I really wish that the police vehicle manufacturers would customize the police cars a little bit more and add a push-to-talk button on the steering wheel somewhere. And have the wiring harness and everything set up to where it's kind of universal, that any doesn't matter if you got Motorola, Kenwood, ICOM, or whatever, have the wiring stuff kind of either universal, or at least the ends are stripped where you can plug in whatever connector you want, but have the system in place to where you can have a push to talk button on the steering wheel that could be hooked up to the car's mobile radio and be able to be driving and keep both hands on the wheel and press a button to talk, and you can talk out loud, and it'll be just like picking the microphone up yourself and holding on to it. That, I think, would be a very phenomenal invention. That would make things a lot safer for officers when they're engaged in these kind of pursuits, or even while they're driving down the road. Like, how nice would it be to be able to be driving down the road, both hands on the steering wheel, and you just use your thumb to press the little push to talk button, and all you do is you just talk out loud, and the little microphone near the freaking rearview mirror picks up your voice, and you can say what you got to say, let go of that button, and then when the reply comes, if it goes through an external speaker mounted behind you or to your side, you can do that, or it can go through the car speakers that's installed in the vehicle and hear communications that way. So this is something that's already done in law enforcement, but it's only on fucking motorcycles. So motorcycle cops have those setups. So if you can have them on motorcycles, then you can most certainly have them in regular vehicles. And I really, really think that should be a thing. I really do. So if anybody from Ford or Dodge or Chevy is watching and has any influence, make that a thing.
This car's malfunctioning.
On Panama through monitor.
We're going to be going southbound on Low Roof Street.
192 southbound Lowry Street from Panama. Power 24 conditions.
No traffic and no pedestrians.
So he's calling out that there's no traffic and no pedestrians. There's a lot of agencies out there that have pursuit policies in place that say that under certain circumstances, if there's a lot of traffic, if there's a lot of people walking around, then it's unsafe to continue this pursuit based off what the potential charges could be. And so they say these things as is going on over the air so that the supervisor can hear what's going on and can make a decision on whether or not that this pursuit needs to end or it needs to continue.
Traffic pedestrians.
His vehicle's possibly breaking down or something.
1 Valley 2, speeds are at 14 miles an hour. Vehicle's probably breaking down.
The vehicle's probably breaking down. Speeds down to 14 miles per hour.
Why the fuck isn't he pulling
1
over?
Valley 2, for information, there's a possible black style firearm inside the vehicle.
Must be an AR-15.
Also black style firearm inside the vehicle.
I don't know why he said it like that. It could be the stress of everything going on. He just kind of fumbled words, but like that's an odd way of saying what he's trying to relay, that there's a black colored firearm inside the vehicle. At this point, you just say there's a firearm in the vehicle. Again, it just must be the situation going on. He's just not thinking too clearly. That's kind of an odd way to describe a firearm, black style firearm.
We are still southbound on Lowry, approaching Encino Street.
Copy, approaching Encino Street from Lowry.
Speeds are at 3 miles an hour.
10-4.
I might just run up there and I might just snatch his ass because he. Oh shit!
No.
I might just snatch his ass because he.
So they're going 3 miles per hour, and you don't have that too bad. It doesn't sound like that too bad of an idea, just getting out of the car and running up to it and snatching the dude out of it. May not be the best tactic in the world, but hey, it's a tactic and it could work. Now, obviously, it's not going to, because we hear that there's gunshots being fired, and that's the risk that you run is going up to this vehicle that has a gun in it, and then boom, they popping you. So, although it's an option, it's not the best option, and especially considering the fact the person's been reported to have a gun. Yeah, that's not the best thing to be doing.
Oh shit! 998! 998!
All right, back this up.
Because he. Oh shit! 998! 998! Blue bell! Blue bell! Blue bell! Blue bell! Shit! Shit! 998! 998! What direction are we headed? What direction are we headed? Shit! Shit! He ran in there. He ran in there.
Okay, description.
Subject's gonna be a white male, black hat, blue long sleeve shirt, shorts. He's gonna have a beard as well.
White male, black hat, blue long sleeve shirt, shorts, and beard.
What street is this? I don't know.
So they could kind of see the general area where he went to, but they lost sight of him, and they don't know exactly where he's at. So at this juncture, the safest thing for them to do is to stop just blindly running towards wherever they saw him disappear to, because they don't know what condition this dude's in. He could be set up for an ambush, and as soon as they round a corner, light their ass up. So they're doing the right thing by pausing and scanning their area to see where the threat may be. Now, if they were, still in the middle of this pursuit and they could see, still lay eyes on this guy and they could see that he's beating feet, then yeah, continue running in behind him because you can see him. You still have a visual on this guy. But if you ever lose visual of someone, just do not go blindly running into the area where you last saw them, because they could be waiting for you to come around that corner and fucking blast your ass by surprise.
Conway and Farms for the northeast, correction northwest perimeter. 10 Metro 4 to take off Fuerte is not due.
He's right. He's under the fucking car.
Now, earlier he said, "Where are we?" And the other officer tells him they know, or something like that. This is where technology really comes into play, and is a good thing if you utilize it. So there are radios out there that can act as a beacon, so to speak, and show your exact location. They're GPS enabled. So for agencies that have those capabilities and have those capabilities turned on, that's great. And it's really great for situations like this where they dismount from the vehicle, they're running fast, and they don't know exactly what street they're on. Instead of them averting their eyes to potential threat areas, they're now averting their eyes and trying to look around for a fucking street sign and try and figure out where they're at, or looking for numerics up on a house to get a block range or something like that. While they're searching for that, the bad guy could be unknowingly using that to his advantage and aiming at them and getting a beat on them and then firing, and they're not going to know right then and there because their eyes are looking somewhere else. If they had potentially been keeping their eyes focused, they could be able to see something like that. So GPS-enabled radios are a great thing. Now, unfortunately, there's some places where the officers they're opposed to that. They're like, I don't want to be fucking tracked on at work. If you don't trust me, then blah, blah, blah. I think that's a stupid-ass fucking mindset if officers are complaining about GPS on the radios, or complaining about being tracked while at work. You should embrace that technology. You really should, because it could mean the difference of you surviving or dying. If you were to dismount from your vehicle, get in foot pursuit, be running for a long distance, be far away from any street signs or any recognizable thing that you could very accurately describe where you're at, and you get shot and you go down in a field and you can't move, and you start to go unconscious. How the fuck are people going to find you when they're 2 minutes away, and then they get there and you're not talking on the radio anymore because you're starting to go unconscious? How are they going to find you at night? By the time they do find you, you could be dead. So if your radio has the ability to have GPS activated and dispatch be able to see exactly where you're at, well, then dispatch could communicate to those other officers and basically walk them in to where you're at. So why would you be opposed to something like that? It kind of bewilders me in a way that there's some officers out there who are vehemently opposed to tracking capability for their radios or even their cars. Like, there's some officers that have bitched and complained about their cars having GPS sensors in them, and dispatchers and supervisors being able to know exactly where they're at all times. Like, if you're that fucking worried about your supervisor knowing where you're at, that means you're probably lazy. I don't like lazy cops, so fuck you. Now, not every place has GPS-enabled radios. They are kind of a more pricier, expensive commodity, so to speak. And even if a agency does have the radios and stuff to be able to do it, they might not have all the infrastructure set up to be able to do that. But if you've got them, use them. They're great, especially for the command and control sense. So if the dispatch center can see exactly where all the vehicles are, where all the individual officers are, that's great. They can kind of help coordinate things based off that screen. Or in the field, if a supervisor can, through their MDT, bring up the map with all the individual officers' positions on them, they can have even better command and control over what's going on because they can see exactly where the hell everyone's at. All right, so I'll back this up just a little second and resume.
Take Baldwin and Farms for the northeast, correction northwest perimeter. 10 Metro 4 to take off Fuerte is not due.
He's right. He's under the fucking car.
To take Panama.
Let me see your fucking hands. He's under the fucking car. There he is, right there.
Hey!
Let me see your fucking hands.
Roll out!
This firearm. Call the fuck out.
Drag him out. Get the fuck out. Crawl out. Crawl out. Crawl out. Get on your fucking stomach and crawl out. What you fucking do? Get your hand behind your fucking back. Get your hand behind your fucking back.
The following body camera footage is from the witness officer in the 2-officer unit who did not discharge his firearm and begins before the end of the vehicle pursuit.
Copy approaching Encino Street, Valari.
Speeds are at 3 miles an hour.
10 black.
I might just run up there and
No.
I might snatch his ass because
Oh shit! Flip out. 998.
Now, I don't know exactly what this officer could see, because we don't get to see with the same clarity that this officer gets to see with his human eye. Anytime we see anything through a camera lens, it's just not going to be the same. So although we can't really see shit, that doesn't mean that he can't see shit. So with that being said, if this officer can clearly see the suspect running and can put his sight on that dude's back and press trigger, then he needs to fucking do that. This is 100% a green light moment for him to be able to do that. The conditions for Tennessee versus Gardner are being met here. This guy's a fucking danger to society. He is fucking shooting at police and running with a gun. Like he's in a residential area. He could very easily take someone hostage, go into a house, turn into a hostage situation, a barricade situation. 100%. This would be a justified use of deadly physical force to shoot a bad guy in the back as they're running. 100% justifiable. But I don't know if he could see that or not. Like I said, we don't. The camera view kind of sucks. But if he did have a clear view of this suspect's back and was able to put the rifle sight, the holographic sight, or red dot sight, he's got an optic on there. If he was able to put that sight on that dude's back and press trigger and drop that dude right there, then he should have fucking done it. And if he refused to do it, then he's wrong. That's neglect and taking care and protecting the citizens of that community. In this instance, that's what's required of you to do. And some people seem to have like this feeling or this mindset that shooting people in the back is wrong. It's a bad thing to do. Fuck them. I don't see nothing wrong with it at all. Especially, think about an active shooter situation where there's some asshole going into a school killing little kids. If you were to go into that kind of scenario, you round the corner, you're in the hallway, some dude's got his back turned to you, and he's going pop, 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 pop. Are you going to give him the opportunity to turn around just so you can shoot him in the chest? Fuck no. Shoot that motherfucker in the back. So this scenario right here, like I said, if he had the ability to put that sight on this dude's back and see him pretty good, and not be like a wild ass shot or nothing like that, if like you legitimately believe that he can make that shot, then he should have made it.
998. Hey, you're eastbound. Subject is now northbound. I'm the next street. I don't know where he's at.
somebody's gonna be a white male, black hat, blue long sleeve shirt, shorts. He's gonna have a beard as well.
White male, black hat, blue long sleeve shirt, shorts, and beard.
What street is this?
I don't know. They know. Hey.
Take 5 win and farms for the northeast, approach northwest perimeter. 10 metro forward to take off 4 and 9-0.
He's in the fucking car! Let me see! Hey, let me see your fucking hands! Fucking car! There he is right there! Hey! Let me see your fucking hands! Crawl out! Crawl out! Crawl the fuck out!
Alright, so you can't see it very well from his camera angle. But it looks like to me he runs up to this side and he goes down into kind of a kneeling position to aim his rifle up under the car to get cover on this guy. That's a pretty good tactic because there's not going to be that much room in between these two vehicles. It's going to be a very small confined space. So by him going up to the other side like that and kneeling down and aiming at the guy from under the vehicle, well, that's maximizing his ability to put incapacitating rounds on that target and not run the risk of accidentally hitting a good guy. Can't tell for sure that's what he's doing, but it looks like what he's doing. And let me back this up a little bit more because I forgot to go over something that I wanted to go over. So up until they find this dude under the car, they're in behind cover here and they are searching with their lights. So when it comes to low light tactics, one thing to think about with white light is it is like a beacon. And not only is the light usable by you, but it's also usable by the bad guys. So in this moment right here, they don't know where this bad guy is at. But the bad guy knows exactly where they are. And this bad guy knows exactly that they have no idea where the fuck he's at. This bad guy, based off where their lights are pointed, he can tell where they are looking and where they are not looking. Depending on, which we can't see what's behind these officers, but depending on ambient lighting conditions and whatnot, these officers could be silhouetted. So while they're pointing their lights in some other direction, this dude could, as it is right now, take his gun, aim it from under the vehicle, and see the silhouette of this officer whose camera view we see. The guy with the rifle. He could see the silhouette of his body, and he could put his sights on that silhouette and press trigger. And that officer could potentially go down in the fight. This other officer over here, maybe he could see the muzzle flash. Maybe he could hone in on it and return fire. But if he was looking in another direction, and only two muzzle flashes went off, and he wasn't able to look in that direction fast enough, all he knows is gunshots maybe came from that direction, but he still don't know where the fuck this dude's at. So that's something to think about with white light and for low light tactics. You have to think about how your light can be used against you. Like I said, the light is like a beacon. It is letting that other person know exactly where you are, where you're looking, and where you are not looking.
Forward 52, take 5 win and farms for the northeast, approach northwest perimeter. 10 metro forward to take off 4 and 9-0.
He's in the fucking car! Let me see! Hey, let me see your fucking hands! Fucking car! There he is right there! Hey! Let me see your fucking hands! Crawl out! Crawl out! Crawl the fuck out! Crawl out! Crawl out! Crawl out! Get on your fucking crawl out! Fucking move! Get your hand behind your fucking back! Get your hand behind your fucking back! Do it now! Don't you fucking move!
One Valley 2, subjects taken into custody, firearm located.
Alright, so they were struggling with this guy, trying to get control of him, and he just kind of walks away to get on the radio.
Do it now!
Not the biggest fan of that. In my opinion, he should have taken his rifle muzzle and put it to the back of that motherfucker's head and kept it there until he was fully secured in cuffs. If that dude reached for a weapon, lights out for him. Otherwise,
Don't you fucking move!
him walking away like this, and he could be fully in cuffs right now. You can't see on the camera very well, but it doesn't seem like he's in cuffs at this point. Meanwhile, if he walks away like this and the dude brandishes a gun, well, that one officer has holstered. You could hear the holster or the gun going in the holster. It makes a very distinctive, like, plasticky scraping sound. That officer don't have his gun out. The other officer has a rifle in his hand, but it's kind of pointed down and away, and he doesn't have really exact control over it, in the sense that it's pointing right at the bad guy. So that bad guy could have produced a gun and shot, and could have gotten a round on target, so to speak, and that would have been a loss. So I think the best course of action until they're fully in cuffs is just stay off the radio. Like, people, like the fourth or fifth person that shows up in the midst of all this, they can get on the radio and talk. Until then, if you've got the means to provide lethal cover, provide lethal cover. Point that gun right at their head. And if they become a lethal threat, deal with that threat. Once they're in cuffs and have been searched, then you can stop pointing the gun at them.
1 Valley 2, subjects taken into custody, firearm located.
So it looks like a passport laying on the ground. Kind of an interesting thing for a criminal to be carrying.
Medical aid was summoned to the scene due to a complaint of chest pain from the suspect, identified as Robert Vaughn, 48, of Lake Isabella. No one was struck by gunfire.
No one was hit.
They were
So when the officers returned fire, or that officer returned fire, he didn't hit the guy. Which is not surprising, considering the fact that he was utilizing a pistol. So pistols are already out the gate inaccurate. Or not, I wouldn't say inaccurate. They're less than accurate compared to a rifle, because you have less points of contact on them and they got a shorter barrel. Misses happen during gunfights. It's not to say, hey, it's acceptable or anything like that. I'm just saying it happens. Now this slide right here, I'll let it talk and then I'll talk.
The recovered firearm was determined to have been stolen during a vehicle burglary on June 11, 2022. The vehicle Vaughn was occupying was determined to have been stolen on June 10, 2022. After receiving medical treatment, Vaughn was booked into the Kern County Jail for 2 counts of attempted murder of a peace officer, felon in possession of a firearm, possession of a stolen vehicle, brandishing a firearm, felony evading, and a pre-existing post-release community supervision violation warrant.
So he was not struck by gunfire, but he went to the hospital because of chest pains. So it sounds like he developed a case of arresticitis. Sometimes that happens to bad guys. You know, as soon as the cuffs go on, boom, sudden medical symptoms. They seem to think that if they complain about medical issues, they won't go to jail, or it'll, you know, it's going to prolong this process, you know, so long it's going to give them some kind of benefit. I don't fucking know. But a bunch of these little shitheads do it. It's either called arresticitis or incarceritis. So the vehicle is stolen, as is the gun. And the gun was stolen during a vehicle burglary, a vehicle break-in. I like how they listed this detail. A lot of other videos don't go into that nitty-gritty detail, but that is the circumstances that exist with stolen guns most of the time, is they're stolen from vehicles. Why are lawful gun owners leaving guns in their vehicles? Bullshit fucking gun-free zones and policies. That's why. That's why people are leaving their gun in the car. Because they're not allowed to take it into work. They're not allowed to take it in the post office. The bank will allow them to take it in there. Lots of places. You know, they go to school. They can't take it into, you know, college, whatever. So they leave it in the car. Well, unfortunately, although these people are lawful people, they're sometimes not really the brightest people, and they will leave their gun in the middle console that doesn't even have a lock on it, and then walk away from the car. Sometimes these very bright individuals will leave their fucking car unlocked. That makes it even super easier for bad guys when they're out car hopping. So, car hopping is a tactic used by criminals to steal shit. It's a crime of opportunity. They basically will walk down a street, and every car they pass, they lift up on the door handle. If it's locked, they keep moving. They keep going until they find a car that's unlocked, because they know from experience there's a lot of people that leave their cars unlocked, accidentally or on purpose. It's a fact. There's a lot of cars that are left unlocked. Like your neighborhood right now. If you walked around your neighborhood, I guarantee you, whether it's parked on the street or parked in someone's driveway, you're going to find a car within a 500-yard radius of your house. You're going to find a car that's unlocked. I almost fucking guarantee you it. So they call it car hopping. They'll just go from car to car. Whichever car is open, they get in it, and they take what they can get. Well, if you left your car unlocked and you got a gun in your middle console, guess what? That gun is gone. They're not going to leave it behind. Like, oh, I can't take this. I'll get in real big trouble for this. No, they're going to fucking take it. So, even if you do lock your car, how easy is it to break out the window of a vehicle and unlock it and then get inside? Super, super fucking easy. And you're going to leave it in the middle console that doesn't even have a lock on it? You're an idiot. People will leave it in the glove box that may not have a lock on it, or it does have a lock on it, but they don't even lock it. There are people who are making it way too damn easy for criminals to arm themselves. So, two things I believe need to happen to help prevent this. One, abolish gun-free zones, because that's the main reason why people are leaving them in their damn cars. Abolish those fucking things, and then B, create safe storage laws that basically make it a crime to negligently store your firearm in such a manner. Because this is what this is just pure fucking negligence. And of course, there's some people who are like, well, you shouldn't be made a criminal for, being a victim of a break-in. That's your car. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you're right. It is your car. That bad guy should not have been fucking breaking into it. But you should not be leaving your damn gun laying around where it's easily accessible and easily operable by unauthorized people. So that should be the key wording in any such sensible firearm law. That's the only sensible gun control law I can think of that could probably have a good effect on decreasing the amount of guns getting into criminals' hands. If you're not going to have your gun on you, then it needs to be made inoperable or inaccessible to unauthorized people. So this gun is stolen from a vehicle. What can you do to, if you can't take your gun with you, what can you do? Lock it in the glove box, lock it in the trunk, or get a gun safe, which realistically that should be option number one. Option number one, first thing you need to do is get a gun safe for the vehicle to secure the gun in. And that can either be something that would be in the trunk, or it could be something within the cab of the vehicle that is tethered to the car seat. Put the gun in there, lock it up, and then go away. Secondary thing is to lock it up into the trunk area somewhere, or put it in the glove box and lock that glove box. The only reason you should be even locking it in the trunk is if you don't have a locking glove box or something like that, or you have enough stuff in the trunk that you could, potentially hide it under, and it'd be less likely that if someone was to break into your car and hit the trunk release and they open the trunk, they're not going to very quickly see it and identify it. Now, if you get like a completely empty fucking trunk that has like no extra shit in it whatsoever, and you just lay the gun to the side and it's going to be highly visible, then yeah, that's kind of sucky situation. But that's why you should get a firearm safe to be able to keep in your vehicle. That way it's more secured if you have to leave your gun in your vehicle and you can't take it in somewhere. Other than that, I advocate that you bring your gun with you all the time. There is a difference between allowed and able. You may not be allowed to bring your gun into the post office, but you are certainly able to do it. There's no checkpoint for you to walk through. There's no one physically patting people down or nothing like that. Same with your workplace. You may not be allowed to, but I can guarantee you're probably able to. So that's a decision you're going to have to make on your own. I can't tell you to make that decision, but something that you need to think about. Allowed versus able. And it's a whole lot harder for someone to steal the gun off of you than it is to steal it out of the car that you're not even in. So he is on a post-release community supervision. So this means this dude has committed some crimes before committing these, and he was released early. Like, he did not do the full amount of time in jail that he could be doing, or prison. And instead, he was released from confinement. He was released from a jail or a prison early and put on supervision. With the idea that you're going to be good while you're out, or you're going to go back inside. Well, unfortunately, that happens too much within our community. Too many violent offenders are being given too many extra chances and been given too many chances like this where they're out on supervision. If they're out on supervision, who the fuck is watching them? Like, leading up to this, I can guarantee you this dude has done some stupid shit and is probably on drugs, probably been doing stuff he's not supposed to be doing. And if he was being watched very intensely, he probably would have been caught for those things. But instead, there's probably a bare minimum standard in place. Like, he probably has to talk to someone once a month, maybe, or maybe he just talks to someone on a phone, because COVID has changed things for some places. I know our probation and parole around here, they used to go do house visits and all this other shit. Now they don't really do a whole lot of that anymore because of COVID. And some other bullshit things going on. But it could be that the only time he's had like a physical encounter with a probation person is when he was set up on it. He had to go meet with them and talk to him, and they take his photo and they have him sign paperwork saying, hey, you understand these conditions, blah blah blah. And past that point, he may have only talked on the phone with them a few times. It may be that they told him, hey, we're coming to your house on Friday. And then that gave him the ability to clean up and make sure that nothing was laying out that should not be out. And it could also be that the probation officer who's assigned to him is a weakling, and they came to his house and they did not press the issue of wanting to go look around because they were too timid, they were too scared, or they were just lazy and just didn't want to fucking do it. They didn't look like he was drunk or high at the time or anything like that, so they just moved on because they do have a caseload. They got like multiple people they know they'll have to go check on. I don't know the circumstances in detail with this guy and his probation officer or whoever's supposed to be supervising him, but those are some things that have gone on within the probation and parole community. It could be a contributing factor to why this guy's still out and about, when realistically he probably could have been caught for doing something stupid, and it would have prevented all this from ever happening to begin with.
This is an ongoing investigation. The Bakersfield.
So, not much else to talk about this video. If you like what you hear and see, go ahead and give me a like and a share. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more Monday quarterback videos. Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching.